Welcome to NewsNation's Backscroll, where we look back at our major news coverage on the most important topics and personalities of our time.
Because my next guest just testified before a federal grand jury. He says he was in possession of a trove of digital evidence from Diddy's freak-offs and parties. His name is Courtney Burgess, and he says a friend gave him 11 flash drives that belonged to the late Kim Porter. And if you follow this story, you'll know that Kim Porter is Diddy's ex-girlfriend and the mother of 4 of his kids. On those drives, the witness says 8 videos featured 8 celebrities at Diddy freak-offs or parties, and that 6 were males, 2 were females. The drive also included a manuscript of an alleged Kim Porter memoir, a memoir that her 4 kids insist is fake. Courtney Burgess told his story on a podcast before he told the grand jury today, and after he told the grand jury, and I mean immediately after, he booked it over to my set, and he and his attorney talked to me. I should tell you that he was very limited in how much detail he could go into about his testimony. And because the 8 people in the videos, the 8 celebrities in the videos were allegedly victims of sex crimes, we know who they are, but we will not be naming them, famous or not. Here now is my conversation with Courtney Burgess and Ariel Mitchell, who's his attorney, beginning with the question of whether the participants in the video even knew they were being recorded. Were there any cameras in places where you'd assume privacy, like bathrooms?
Yeah, well, I've never been in this house, but the picture, yes. That's where it took place, yes.
You're aware of surreptitious cameras that were recording in private places like bathrooms?
I didn't see the cameras. You could tell how the person was angled. I knew that it was a camera there because I was there, you know. I wasn't there. I don't know if the person was too tall, he was holding it or whatever, but I wasn't there.
May I ask you this, Courtney? And Ariel, you can jump in on this as well, but I want to hear from Courtney first. Your home was raided by federal authorities, and I assume it is because of this material. Is that true?
I wouldn't say that. They just went to every one of them looking for me. They said, the paperwork said the 24th, that I had to be there the 28th, and then it was the 27th. I said, I can't make it there, that's tomorrow. So I don't know. From the look of it, it was 4 days.
And I want to be specific. Yes, when we talk about a raid, we're talking about when a subpoena is served for documents, a search warrant or an arrest warrant. In this situation, Mr. Burgess was not in any way, shape, or form had a search warrant or an arrest warrant issued for him. It was just them serving a subpoena. So when the federal government needs to serve a subpoena, they use the Marshal Service to come to all of your residences if you have more than one residence. So in this situation, they sent marshals to all of Mr. Burgess's residences, and that was somehow construed or understood or turned into a raid, but he did not face a raid. It was just to serve him the subpoena.
Ariel, do you believe that the subpoenas were issued and executed based on the federal authorities' knowledge that these flash drives existed and had this kind of compromising material?
I think it was based on statements that Mr. Burgess made in a prior interview.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that, and he answered what he could, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
this is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were right.
Sure.
Appear to
Let
be
me rephrase it.
Based on yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appeared to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victimized,
Yeah,
meaning
victim.
this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
And of those 8, how many seemed to be potentially minors?
2 to 3, possibly 3.
2 to 3. Also on the flash drives, Courtney, was what looked to be a manuscript written by, it appears to be a woman who had taken Kim Porter's private journals and had written a book. Is that accurate?
We don't know.
I don't know
how. Yeah.
I don't know how, who wrote it, put it together, but it was from her when I spoke to her.
What you received on the flash drives, was it the completed book or was it notes from Kim Porter that later were made into a book?
It was completed. It's only 60,
Okay.
only about 54 pages. It was.
Sure, and in the beginning, it says, Kim made me promise that if something happened to her, I would make sure this book became public to the world. The way Sean moved, I knew that was a promise I would have to fulfill. Kim knew I was a woman of my word, and this book was going to make it to print. So it sounds like it is a woman who wrote up the notes from Kim Porter. Does that sound accurate?
It's how you read it, yes. I haven't even read the book.
Do you know who the woman is?
No.
And to be clear, he received it in its complete form. So I think just to make sure we have some clarity here, the manuscript that Mr. Burgess received was already in its complete form. It's not that he edited it or changed anything.
Got it.
He did give it to someone
Makes
else
sense.
who then edited it, but that's not how he received it.
Okay, so Ariel, did your client, Courtney, receive the book from the woman who seems to have written it, saying, I'm a woman of my word, and this book is going to make it to print?
I don't know if he received it from a man or a woman. He can answer that.
I received it from a man. I tell you, somebody she was dating.
Do you know if the notes from the book really were from Kim Porter?
It was, yes, because I spoke to her probably like 6 hours before I got it, received it.
You spoke to Kim Porter?
Yes.
So Kim Porter.
Just saying hi.
Okay.
Just saying hi.
Okay, Ariel, go ahead and give me clarity on the timeline.
No, I'm trying to get him to provide clarity of, was there a conversation with her?
No, I was talking to the person, and he said, hold up, this is Courtney, be right here. Let me say something to him. He said, I know him, put me on speaker. Then that's how we end up speaking.
And then later, somebody brought somebody else came and brought you the manuscript.
Right. Before I left ATL.
To the best of your knowledge, Courtney, do you believe that the manuscript is truly based on Kim Porter's diaries? Because there is a lot of dialogue in there. It is pages and pages of actual dialogue, which, I mean, I can't remember breakfast today, let alone dialogue from 5, 10, 15, and 20 years ago.
I guess this is a woman's scar. You understand? Maybe, what she been through. It's, I'm not a woman, so I'm just going by how I got female friends and relatives. They always come to the house scoring because what went on in their relationship. And you can't, when you're scoring, you can't forget it.
Important to stop down here for a moment and note again that Sean Combs is accused. He has not been convicted. of any crimes. And so far, everything against him is an allegation until it is proven in a court of law and a jury either decides or he decides to sign a plea deal to any of these crimes. But at this point in the story, Sean Combs is not guilty of any crimes. He is currently under indictment. He is currently being held on bail. But if you're at all curious about how Courtney Burgess feels about Diddy today, I asked him about that too. And here's what he had to say. Your lawyer just said, the story the tapes tell are the story of Diddy from the last several decades. And I know that you've known Diddy for a very long time. Can you describe what that story is based on what you now know to be true, the last several decades of Diddy's behavior and the reason he's now sitting in lockup?
I think I've been doing it for 35 years. I think we probably entered the music business at the same time. He entered with Uptown, I entered into Big Beat, Atlantic. At the time, I guess he was ambitious. He was, then from ambitious went to doing anything. And then from doing anything to didn't care about nobody, who he could beat. And then he ended up turning into Lucifer today. I look at him, I know y'all call him Diddy or Puffy, I call him Lucifer.
Welcome to this special Friday night edition of the Banfield Show. Tonight, exclusive details in a harrowing story from a young woman who says she was brutally gang raped by Sean Diddy Combs and his entourage. She says it happened one terrifying night back in 2018. Her recall is crystal clear and specific. And if true, it represents one of the more disturbing assaults that Sean Combs, Diddy, is alleged to have committed. What's different about this accuser, Ashley Parham, is just that, her name. It's front and center. She chose not to remain anonymous in her lawsuit like so many others have. What's also different is that she wasn't at a party. She wasn't even in the entertainment world. In fact, she says she's never even met Sean Combs in person before this had happened. Her 62-page complaint is filled with details and is one of at least 25 lawsuits that Diddy is now facing, in addition to facing federal criminal charges that could put him away for life. I read a lot of those details right here on the air the night that lawsuit was filed. But tonight, Ashley Parham is here to fill in some blanks. As a recap, she says the gang rape happened at the home of a mutual acquaintance in the Bay Area back in 2018. She says that Sean Combs singled her out because she publicly disrespected him in a FaceTime call and accused him of orchestrating the murder of Tupac Shakur. She says that Combs and 3 other men raped her, the other men acting on Diddy's orders. She also claims that members of Combs' entourage stood by, even helped out in the assault. Afterward, she says everybody simply hung around drinking and smoking as though nothing had happened. And even though she was drugged, she says it soon wore off and that scuffles eventually broke out, during which shots were actually fired. She even claims that she slashed at Diddy with a knife. A neighbor heard the ruckus and called the police, but Parham says the officers who showed up from the Contra Costa Sheriff's Department didn't offer to help her. She says she didn't believe they ever even investigated. The department, however, says this, and I quote, "A report was taken on March 23rd, 2018. We take these cases and accusations seriously, and detectives thoroughly investigated the accusations. It was later determined the claims were unfounded." Which brings me to tonight. Months after putting her name on a highly explicit, exhaustively detailed court filing, Ashley Parham has decided to go on national television and answer questions about it. She asked us if we could conceal her face, and we agreed. She also wanted to be joined by her attorney, Ariel Mitchell. Here's our conversation. Ashley and Ariel, thank you very much for doing this. I know this is extremely sensitive. I'll ask the questions best I can, and I'll challenge the best I can, understanding that this is delicate information. With that in mind,
Ashley, can you tell me how you first even came into contact and came to know Sean Combs?
I met a man named Shane Pierce at the bar, and outside of the bar, he had Sean Combs on a FaceTime phone call, and he overheard me saying I wasn't impressed by him and wasn't a fan, and that I thought he killed Tupac. And
do you believe that that's what started all of this, that perhaps Sean Combs had a grudge, just hearing that you believed he was Tupac's killer?
yeah, I think that's what started it, because that's when he threatened me, that he was gonna come after me. And he threatened he was gonna eat my face, so I didn't take him seriously. I just thought he was a bizarre human being.
At what point did you come into actual physical contact? Did you see him face to face for the first time? What were the circumstances?
It was when Shane Pierce had called me, and he claimed he wasn't feeling well from his cancer treatment and he needed help opening his medication. So I went over there to help him out, and it turned out he was just fine and he didn't need my help. It was weird. He wanted to show me his new car, and he took me on a short drive around the Renda Hills, and then we got back to his little bachelor pad in the house, and he offered me a glass of water, and I drank it, and I started to feel a little bit off. And then I heard a bunch of people coming down the stairs, and it was Sean Combs and a whole bunch of people who just busted in the door, and in just a boisterous manner, and acting, he said something like, "Bet you didn't think you were ever gonna see me," and I was just in complete shock and frozen.
And what happened next?
He basically started threatening me with human trafficking, and that they could take me anywhere and sell me. He had Christina Coram. He ordered her to insert a copper IUD into my vagina, but luckily it deployed before she could actually get it inside me, like inside the cervix. And that's when Sean Combs got extremely angry, and he grabbed the TV remote and sexually assaulted me vaginally with the remote extremely violently.
Where in the apartment did this happen?
And it was in the house. It has a little studio apartment underneath the house, and it was on the bed because it was a really tiny apartment.
And was everyone in that party present? The people who had all descended down those stairs into that studio apartment, were they all present witnessing what was happening to you?
I heard more people upstairs that I didn't see, so I'm not incredibly sure how many people were there. In the room with me, it was Sean Combs, Shane Pierce, Shane's friend, who I don't know his name yet, his what he called was a bodyguard who later claimed he was a correctional officer or undercover officer, but he wasn't. And then Christina Coram and another white woman who I don't know her name.
Did you know who these people were, or have you come to learn who they are because of the alleged assault that happened?
I learned who they were afterwards, other than Sean Combs.
And so now, if you can, and I'm sorry these questions are so difficult. I'm following along with the affidavit for the most part. Can you tell me what happened after you say Sean Combs allegedly raped you with the TV remote? What happened after that in that bedroom with all of those people present?
They took turns raping me, and Sean Combs raped me anally. Shane Pierce also raped me, but vaginally. And the bodyguard guy, he raped me as well while Sean Combs was sitting in a chair naked, filming it and jerking off to watching me being raped.
Sean Combs was masturbating while you say the other members of his party were taking turns with you?
Yeah.
And what happened next?
And I looked for my stuff, my shoes, my clothes, my purse, my keys, and my phone, and none of it was there. And I found a random large black t-shirt. So I put that on, and the knife that Sean Combs had put against my face earlier, where he wanted to cut my face, and Christina Coram told him that it wouldn't be good for human trafficking me, that clients wouldn't like it. I found that knife because they had left it in there. So I tried to hide it on my left side underneath partially of the t-shirt. And I stepped outside, and that's right where the bodyguard with a gun was, and they told me to sit down. So I sat down on this makeshift bench out of buckets and a plywood, and I just had to sit there and just kind of listen to Sean Combs brag about what he did to me, and that he's gotten away with more serious crimes and no one would believe me. And he mentioned Tupac and...
To be clear, this is outside now. This is in the backyard. You have now moved out towards the backyard where they are all sitting outside?
Yeah, they were all in the backyard, sitting outside, just having fun with each other, like, and they were smoking and drinking, like it was just a normal day for them.
So what happened after that?
I was sitting there on the bench and I wasn't allowed to leave. At one point, Sean Combs threw a fanny pack at me that was full of drugs, and I got angry and I threw the fanny pack into the bush, and that's when the bodyguard told me that I had messed up and to go get it, and Sean quickly said, no, she needs to stay there. Someone else go get it. So I couldn't get up from the seat. He was just trying to brag about all his celebrity friends, and I just didn't want to listen to him. I just was sitting there until I could try to run. But there were so many people, like, around the house and up above near the actual house's backyard, where there's a patio where Christina Coram and a bunch of people were just hanging out and smoking and chatting and having fun. Sean Combs turns to me and he says, "Why haven't we ever partied like this before?" And that's when I got enraged and I said, "This is not a party. You raped me." And he attempted to bribe me with some amount of money, and I said, "No, you raped me. I'm not going to stay silent on this." And then he ended up calling his mother, Janice Combs, and she got on the phone, a FaceTime video, and she yelled at me not to hurt her son. And I yelled back, "He raped me." And she told me to take the money and shut up.
At some point, someone in the backyard brought out a weapon and fired it. What were the circumstances surrounding that?
That's when Sean Combs had bragged about getting away with way worse than what he had done to me, and he admitted to killing Tupac or having him killed. And that's when the bodyguard turned the gun around on Sean Combs, and I ran behind the bodyguard because I was just looking for any type of person who might help me. I tried to get the gun, but he wouldn't let me, and it went off in Sean Combs' direction into the hill. Luckily, it didn't go into anybody's house.
And I just want to go back to that one detail. Sean Combs said to you that he killed Tupac or that he had Tupac killed? Which one was it?
He paid to have Tupac killed.
That's what he said in that moment in the backyard, that he had paid to have Tupac killed.
Yes, and he was bragging about it.
So now a gunshot has gone off in Sean Combs' direction. What happened after? You're now standing behind the bodyguard, one of the men who was in the room and allegedly assaulted you with the others. What's the next series of events?
Mm-hmm. That's when I kind of lost my mind, and I had the knife and I ran at Sean Combs, and he started to run up the stairs towards where Christina Coram and all the people were sitting up on the little patio, and I hit him in the back with my left hand, and he fell down on the stairs. He was lying down on the stairs, and he turned back and looked at me. And I had the knife in both of my hands, and I was going to plunge the knife into him because it was a kill or be killed situation. And his face looked so scared that he was looking at me like I was the monster when he's the monster, and my moral compass snapped back in. And I decided that this is insane. I can't do this. I don't have it in me to do that. And I turned around and I took 2 steps down the stairs. Sean Combs got back up and he pushed me, but I caught my footing and I took the knife and I slashed it backwards behind me without looking, and it made contact with him and he backed off. Then they had me forced to sit back down on the bench, and Christina Quorum came down. She had a medical bag, and he was bleeding a little bit on his chest, but not, like, I didn't stab him, it was just a cut, and they put anti-clotting type stuff on and a bandage on him.
You're watching a special edition of Banfield tonight. My wrenching but important conversation with a woman who's now going public about what she says was a vicious gang rape at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs and his entourage. Before I play more of my interview with Ashley Parham, I want you to hear Diddy's side of the story. Here's a statement from his legal team, quote, "As the Contra Costa Sheriff's Department confirmed, her report was thoroughly investigated and it was determined the claims were unfounded. Mr. Combs was nowhere near Orinda, California on the day she claims she was assaulted. There is no evidence that Mr. Combs was ever in the same room as Ms. Parham. She is completely unbelievable, and no sane person who views the evidence will credit her story," end quote. Let's pick up our conversation with what Ashley says she did after the alleged assault. You were able to make an escape from that backyard. How did that happen, and when did that happen?
That happened because the neighbors had been making noise complaints to the cops, and the neighbor came over to see what was going on one time earlier before the gunfire, and he asked if everything was going on, and the bodyguard turned the gun on him and told him to go away. But then he came back and created the distraction for me to actually run. And that's when I ran towards him in his house. And then someone, I believe it was Sean Combs, from the top of the hill near the front of the actual house, not where I was escaping from, started firing a gun at me.
So at this point, you're making the escape from the backyard. The neighbor is helping. You're running down the street towards the neighbor's house, and there's gunfire, you believe, from Sean Combs. Did you seek shelter? Did you try to find somewhere to, avoid being shot?
Yeah, the neighbor jumped behind a car, and I followed him behind the car.
And then did you eventually get to the neighbor's house and be able to call the police?
The neighbor had already called the police, and he invited me into the house. And then when the police officer showed up, he really couldn't have cared less about what I was saying. He didn't offer me help. He didn't offer me an ambulance. I told him that Sean Combs had raped me, and he didn't offer me a ride or any type of help. He just left me for dead there.
Did the neighbor at least report there's been gunfire? We've escaped with our lives. We've had to crouch behind a car to escape bullets. Did the police listen to any of that?
Yeah, that police officer heard the neighbors say that we got shot at, and he told him what he had seen and heard.
And Ariel, I'll ask you to step in here. Is there a police report from that night, from the Contra Costa police, to indicate that they had responded to this gun complaint and obviously what Ashley says was a rape complaint as well?
The Contra Costa Sheriff did admit that there was a complaint on March 23rd, 2018, but they claimed they investigated and it was unfounded. So all of the women who have reported alleged sexual assaults to the Contra Costa police have all had their claims investigated and unfounded. I spoke to Ashley's therapist, who informed me that she has treated several, countless women throughout the county who all reported their crimes and the sexual batteries against them to the Contra Costa Sheriff, and all of them were found to be unsubstantiated. I actually have spoken to 2 individuals, one of whom is a rape victim of Shane Pierce, who was raped by Shane Pierce 6 years before this incident happened to Ashley. She reported the crime to the police in Contra Costa, and they also unsubstantiated her claim.
And I should mention here that these are allegations until proven in a court of law, but I want to continue with this story as well. It wasn't just the Contra Costa County Sheriffs that Ashley made a report to. She also reported this to the Walnut Creek Police and to the Orinda County, or the Orinda Police Department. Ariel, was there any response from those police departments?
So Orinda and Walnut Creek are city police departments, all under the umbrella of Contra Costa County. So I did reach out to them, and they directed me to go through Contra Costa County. And anybody from myself on down who have made public records requests to the county for these reports and these records have all been denied. They refuse to give us any public records that we are entitled to in relation to all of the times Ashley reported this crime to these 3 different police departments.
And I'm assuming this is still part of the investigation in the lawsuit. So I just want to carry on with what happened next in the series of events. Ashley, the police leave, you're at the neighbors. What do you do next?
The neighbor offered that I could sleep on the couch, but after everything I had been through, I just didn't trust anyone. And I knew that they had all left because there was speeding vehicles and screeches when they left. So I just didn't know what to do. I was in a state of shock, and I went back into the apartment to get my belongings, but they were all gone. And the adrenaline had worn off, and my body was just fully exhausted. And I was alone in the room, and I just ended up falling asleep. And I know that doesn't make any sense to people, but the Renda Hills are incredibly dark and windy roads with no street lights. The idea of running half naked down to police who weren't going to help me anyways wasn't going to happen, because I assumed that they were going to, Sean Combs people were waiting for me if I tried to leave. I just lost faith in humanity and kind of just gave up and lied in the bed in a catatonic state until I fell asleep.
And when Shane brought you
And then
back
what
here,
happened
stuff.
when you woke up?
And when I woke up, Shane appeared and he gave me back my stuff, and he was pretending like nothing bad had happened. So I just went into a fawning type state and was like, okay, we'll just play the game he's trying to pull so I can get out of here. And he gave me my stuff back, and I got to leave.
How did you make your way out of there? You now had your keys and you could drive away from this crime scene?
Yeah, I had to use GPS to get back to the freeway because it's not an area I know. And I was able to drive and get home. And when I got home, I was just so destroyed. I just lied in my bed for 3 days, not eating, not sleeping. I couldn't function like a normal human being.
Ashley, the tough question, not just from me, but from any opposing counsel, that would be Sean Combs' lawyers in this case, if it goes to trial. The tough question will be, why would you return to the scene of a gang rape, a shooting, a knifing, and a harrowing escape under gunfire after finding safety at a neighbor's house where he offered to let you stay there? Why would you have returned to such a terrible scene?
Everybody was gone from the place, and I was not in a headspace where I could trust the neighbor because I don't know him, and I was kind of afraid to stay in that house. And I had tried to find my keys so I could at least hide in my car. I kind of just gave up on life, honestly. If they had killed me that night, I wouldn't have cared at that point.
And again, I'm sorry to ask these tough questions. I do think that, I was going to say, and I'm sorry that I have to ask these tough questions. I feel like Sean Combs' lawyers will be a lot tougher than I am. It's hard to understand from an outside perspective why you'd feel less safe with a neighbor who rescued you than walking back towards the crime scene where all those horrible things had happened before you could truly know for sure there was no one still left in that home.
Ashley, I'm going to jump in here because I really feel we're looking at things from a very logical standpoint. You nor I have not been in that situation. And anybody attempting to judge the mindset of somebody in that situation, it is ludicrous, honestly. How could you not understand why we would logically not experiencing that? Of course you would say, oh, well, why wouldn't you just stay with the neighbor? The neighbor is a stranger too. She's just went through this very great ordeal, not knowing where to go, what to do. And now there's this other stranger who's introduced where she was with the police and nothing happened. Logically, to me, trying to go back to get her stuff seems the most reasonable. She doesn't have her clothes on. She doesn't have her phone, her purse, her keys. And now to expect her to now go stay with a complete stranger and not even attempt to, I guess, get out of there entirely, when she thought it was safe to at least go back to retrieve or at least find her possessions. She thought everyone had left. So would you prefer an empty space or a space with this random person that you don't know after you had just been violently gang raped, threatened with your life, threatened to be sex trafficked? In my mind, it doesn't make sense for her to have just stayed with the neighbor. What she did makes logical sense if you are to put yourself in that predicament where these things had happened to you. So unless we're going to put ourselves in that mind frame to think about what we would do if this had happened to us, which we can't even do. We can try to imagine it, but there's no imagining it unless you're in it. And anybody who's been in such a severe situation, to expect or to question their logic, I think is unreasonable.
Yeah, and listen, I'm with you. I've never been in that circumstance. I can't imagine what it was like to be in your shoes, Ashley. All I'm saying is that at trial, all of that sensitivity goes out the window, and opposing counsel, Sean Combs' counsel, will be extraordinarily tough because he'll be looking, or she'll be looking at 12 jurors, and it's their sensibilities that are going to have to be convinced. And Ariel, that's why I asked those tough questions. But I do want to ask, because evidence is everything, right? Have you been able to get that neighbor, track that neighbor down to corroborate all of this? That would be immensely helpful to this case.
Yes, we are in a process of getting that corroboration. We are working with investigators and other individuals to track down that person. We tried to reach out to that person directly at what we believe the address to, but we do have people working on getting that person to us.
Does that person still live in that home, and does Ashley know what home it was? I understand how confusing a scene can be. It can be easy to, in the dark, certainly, to not remember which house it was. Do you know which house it was and who the neighbor is?
No, we're not exactly sure. That's why I hired PI to get that done.
I do know what house it was.
Well, not the house. I was talking about the person, yeah.
Yeah, but
we know the building, right.
The neighbor, he didn't offer to take me to the hospital or the police, so I couldn't trust him
either
as well.
Just to let it be known, outside of the person, the neighbor, the Contra Costa sheriff has already confirmed that a report was made that night. So to the extent there is no dispute whether or not a rape was reported that night. So that's not in question.
Welcome back to our special report on what may be the single most sensational of the now more than 24 lawsuits that are facing Sean Diddy Combs, P. Diddy. An accuser named Ashley Parham has outlined in court papers and is now telling us in person how she was allegedly gang raped, drugged, shot at, and threatened by Combs and his associates. She further says she was given enough drugs to kill a horse on the night of the alleged attack. I asked her about that.
Do you think that the water that you'd been offered prior to them arriving was drugged? And did you feel as though you were under any kind of influence at this point of the alleged gang attack?
Talk about the oil, too.
Yeah. I did feel a little bit off from the water, but before they raped me, Sean Combs pulled out a bottle of what turned out to be oil, and he doused my whole body in it to the point my hands were dripping, and I couldn't push anybody away from me. And then I just slowly, like, my body started to not function properly, and I wasn't able to fight back or do anything.
And then in the affidavit, you mentioned that as the alleged gang rape is ending, Sean Combs takes a pill out of a bag and he puts it in your mouth. Do you know what it was and what effect did it have?
It was a white circular pill. I don't know what it was, but I'm assuming it was like Plan B or something, because the copper IUD didn't work.
Did it have any kind of drugging effect on you? Did you feel as though you became even more incapacitated afterwards, or did it have no effect on you?
I was pretty incapacitated, so it didn't feel like it did anything more to me.
Did that party all eventually leave the room and leave you in that state, or what happened after the gang rape ended?
Christina Coram came over. I was hanging halfway off the bed, just kind of lifeless, and she came over to check on my, like, if I was still alive and breathing and stuff. And she had a bag that had IVs and little medical bottles that I don't know what would be in them. I do remember that they did put an IV in me, but they didn't have a stand. and they put it on top of the table near where Sean had been sitting. And I remember that I grabbed at it and it fell to the floor, and the bodyguard was still in the room, and he put it back on the table saying it wouldn't work if it was on the floor.
Welcome back to our special report this Friday night. We're devoting this hour to a woman with a harrowing accusation that she was drugged and raped by Sean Diddy Combs and his entourage back in 2018. A woman who says she was treated at a hospital days later. She says a report from that hospital does exist. So I asked her what it contains and how it might back up her account. Here once again, Ashley Parham with her attorney, Ariel Mitchell. When you went to the hospital, was it immediately after the incident or was it several days later? And if later, were they able to do a rape kit that has some integrity to it due to the proximity to the incidents themselves?
It was later.
A couple of weeks later, right?
A couple of weeks later, unfortunately. I didn't have the guts to go earlier, and I regret that.
Talk about when you contacted your personal physician for the testing.
Oh, yeah.
STD testing.
I contacted my primary care physician, and I told her that I had been raped, and she gave me all the STD tests and the HIV tests that all luckily came back negative.
Understanding that the hospital report is in depth and lengthy, is there anything that you have in the hospital report that can prove or disprove Ashley's claims about what happened that night?
It proves that she went to the hospital and that she reported a rape and that they did a rape kit. And of course, unfortunately, due to the delay, there was not much that was or could have been found.
Again, allegations are allegations until they're proven in a court of law. And that is where we stand tonight with a harrowing story from a woman with unbelievable details, but they haven't reached a courtroom yet. That does it for us tonight. Don't forget to check out the NewsNation app for the latest on this and other stories from NewsNation. I want to bring in Larry Levine. He is a former federal prisoner who served time at 11 institutions of various security levels in 5 different states, and he now advises people who are about to go to prison. As the founder and director of Wall Street Prison Consultants. And of course, he's a friend of the show. So breaking news right now, Larry, I am just getting word. People magazine says it's got a source on the inside that tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest. When they called his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system, and reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch. Another error that I guess some warden told you this. There are sentenced inmates there. They're called cadre inmates. They don't have to be white collar inmates, but they're doing maintenance on the building. And the problem why there's a lot of violence there, they have housing units. And they're mixing bank robbers, drug dealers, rapists with white collar people. And this is why Diddy, he can't go into a regular housing unit because somebody will take him out for sure. Somebody's going to get a lot of street credibility out of this. People that are doing substantial time that know they're never getting out, they'll just kill the guy. No questions asked.
You think that they'd suck up to him because he's got a lot of money, and if he ever does get the commissary options, he would be able to help them.
Some people do because
I got to wrap it real quick.
Okay, some people do think that Diddy can help him, but this guy's going to be locked up forever. His case will probably take at least 3 years to litigate. He'll stay at MDC. There's rumors that he wants to go to Essex County Jail in New Jersey because he doesn't like MDC. He's a Marshals inmate. There's no way they're going to transfer him back and forth, I don't know, several times a week, 6 Marshals to do it.
Jersey.
He's out of luck.
Listen, I'm going to have you back. I'm going to have you back. I have so many more questions for you, but we've had a lot of breaking news in this show. So Larry Levine, thanks for that. I appreciate it. Dave Ehrenberg, I know you've had a busy week. So my friend, fresh off a Trump assassination attempt, let's talk Diddy. Because U.S. attorney apparently through, New York Times and then also the Rolling Stone magazine confirming that. And it seems with the, I don't know if you heard the Mark Agnifilo defense lawyer's statement, sure sounded like he's confirming that Diddy's been arrested. But your initial thoughts upon hearing this tonight?
I just thought it was always a matter of time, Ashley, when the feds raid your place, and that was more of a raid than what happened at Mar-a-Lago, which was just a polite search. When they come guns a-blazing and they find people who have illegal guns on them, someone's going to get charged. I mean, the easiest charges are federal firearms charges, but then there are the possibility of human trafficking charges, sexual assault charges, and the video that came out with him attacking the woman on the camera. I mean, look, people lie, but videos don't. That was so shocking. And even though she had reached a civil agreement, a settlement with him, that doesn't stop prosecutors from moving ahead with a prosecution. And plus, even if you settle civilly with one of your accusers, you cannot force that person not to comply with a subpoena. So if that individual, that victim, settles and still gets a subpoena to appear before a grand jury, she has to appear before the grand jury, and you can still be prosecuted for it.
So not immediately clear what the charges are. No one's been able to sort that out yet, although multiple people are now confirming their sources say that he was arrested indeed tonight in Manhattan. It doesn't take a betting man to figure out what those charges might be, but I'll let you be a betting man.
Oh, boy. Well, I would think there'd be perhaps some human trafficking because those are the allegations we've heard. Perhaps there'd be some sexual assault. Now, a lot of those cases are prosecuted at the state level, not the federal level, but you saw with Harvey Weinstein how the feds got involved. So it is done. And then I think federal firearms offenses, maybe not against Diddy, but perhaps against some of his entourage. We don't know yet. We're speculating. But once the feds raid your home and raid your properties, plural, I think it's just a matter of time where a grand jury is going to issue an indictment, and it's going to be unsealed soon.
Well, so what we know is arrested tonight in Manhattan, his lawyer putting out a statement saying he is not a perfect person. He is an imperfect person, disappointed with the decision to pursue what we believe is an unjust prosecution of Mr. Combs. Again, this is Mark Agnifilo, his attorney. We're going to continue to collect some of the details on this and find out, where he's been taken. And the update comes via our friend Larry Levine, who has a source close to the investigation. Larry is a former federal prisoner himself who served time at 11 institutions across 5 states and is founder and director of Wall Street Prison Consultants. He advises people who are about to face the same plight, and he joins me now live. Okay, Larry, spill the tea. What are you hearing about Diddy's eating?
Well, I got an inside source there at MDC, and if they knew who it was, they'd really plot. When people go into custody, they have anxiety, they're depressed, a lot of things go through their mind. And one of the things they do is they stop eating. They lose a lot of weight. Look at somebody coming out of prison. They look like a POW or something, that they've been through the ringer. Now, there's a collateral issue that may be here. Look what happened to Jeff Epstein. I got people every day saying, do you think they're going to Epstein him? And I go, well, I really don't know. But they can't have this guy do a suicide. It would look kind of funny. Now, imagine if somebody got to one of the correctional officers, and this could happen. They don't make a lot of money. And there's people out there that he has things on that do have a substantial amount of money. Imagine if someone paid someone off on the inside to actually poison his food, give him a heart attack, and he dies. And no one would really think anything of it. So that may be one of the reasons he's not eating. He's really, really paranoid. He's really, really scared. He doesn't know what to think. He doesn't know who to trust or what to believe. Then he had a religious visit also, and a dietitian come talk to him. Now, there's a possibility that he wants to go on a kosher diet. It's prepared a little bit differently. It's like it's a religious diet. That could be another aspect as well. But I remember when I first went into custody at MDC Los Angeles, and I didn't eat for a couple of days, but this guy's been there about a week now. So he should be in a routine. And there's just so much, Ashley, there is so much disinformation that comes out. Like he has to get up at 6 o'clock to make his bed and mop his cell. That's for a regular housing unit at MDC. He's not getting out of the shoe. He doesn't have to make his bed, really. He's probably laying in bed all day long, just stewing and thinking. So the situation and the conditions for him are completely different than it would be for a regular inmate. So
talk to me, Larry, about talk to me about the potential that this could be a protest, because Ghislaine Maxwell famously said some pretty strident things about the MDC Brooklyn lockup and the food and how terrible it was, and that she had been losing a ton of weight. Is it possible this is a protest?
Well, at several BOP institutions, Federal Bureau of Prisons institutions across the country, there's food strikes going on where people are refusing to eat because of the quality of the food and the way they're being treated. And that could have carried over to MDC. But on the other hand, he's sitting in the shoe. How did he hear about it? Unless he bought the little overpriced Sony Walkman radio. I bet they let him have that. Or maybe he talked to somebody on the phone on a limited call that told him, yeah, they're having a hunger strike, and he's joining in that. Remember, the food is bland. The food is a lot of carbohydrates. It's kind of it fills you up, but you get sick eating it. I mean, there's mold in a lot of that food. The food coming to him is cold. It's not coming to him warm like it would be in a regular housing unit, because they feed the people in the shoe last. Maybe he got sick from the food. That's another possibility. I mean, they may actually be moving him. Maybe he's concerned and his lawyer's concerned, as I said,
do you know,
about
Larry, if he's
somebody
still on
killing him.
suicide watch? Is he still on suicide watch?
He's still on suicide watch. The shrink is coming to see him several times a day, and at MDC, they hand out psych meds like they're handing out M&Ms. So I don't know if he's taking them, but they're certainly available to him. I took them in MDC one time because I was having problems sleeping. And after I took it one time, you play a lot of chess in there, you do a lot of reading. I wasn't able to engage anybody. I couldn't think. I turned into a zombie. And after taking it one time, I stopped taking them.
And those statements include descriptions of what the witness says he saw on those tapes. So I asked him about that, and he answered what he could, given the limitations imposed on him after testifying before the grand jury. Out of those 8 videos, 8 celebrities, 6 men and 2 women, how many of those 8 celebrities were close to being underage or potentially underage?
2 males.
2 males. And of those 8 celebrities, how many of them were intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
This is going to be all speculation. I just want to preface it by he wouldn't know if they were. Right.
Sure.
Appeared to
Let
be.
me rephrase it.
Based on, yes.
Understand. Out of the 8 celebrities who were recorded having intimate relations with Sean Combs, how many of them appeared to be either inebriated or intoxicated or under the influence of drugs?
All of them. All of them.
Out of those 8, how many appear to be potentially victimized? How many might have been victimizing?
I think all, to be honest, all.
Were victims
They
or
victims.
were perpetrating?
Victims.
They were all 8 were victimized.
Yeah.
Meaning
Victim.
this was happening to them and they were inebriated.
Right. Not knowing, I guess, how much proof it was in it, what they was doing.
And of those 8, how many seemed to be potentially minors?
2 to 3, possibly 3.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.